All right, so I don't know if you guys have heard or not, but they have announced that they are releasing Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, various other Justice League related movies, and most likely more Superman and Batman isolated movies over the next 10 years. This is in addition to all of the movies that Marvel has announced, which I don't have that list, but you can assume it's just as many unknown. I mean, I know they're doing AntMan, who I've never heard of, and I don't think anybody else has either, except for John.
Okay.
And
give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on this is don't. Just stop. We've had enough superhero movies. I think we should keep making the occasional superhero movies with good superheroes, with good stories that could be properly turned into movies. But we already have a lot of examples of really bad movies, really bad comic book movies.
I was like, Blood Glacier.
Yeah, no, Blood Glacier. Speaking of which, for example, I know it's pretty critically acclaimed, but the Captain America movies. I personally think that they're bad movies. I mean, not anything to do with the fact that they're superhero movies. I just think that the direction they've gone with them, the theme they've adapted, the way they're turning them in sort of like spy-esque movies, trying to get away from the superhero, sci-fi, fantasy feel with it. I really don't feel like it's working, and I literally fell asleep in the middle of the last Captain America movie. So, and that's a pretty big name. Yeah, the Winter Soldier. Yeah, and I mean, I fell asleep in the middle. There was so little action in that movie and so little interesting plot in that movie. There was these huge, long stretches of absolutely nothing happening, and it was the worst. And that's a very well-known, very tenured superhero. And so now we've got things like Aquaman and Wonder Woman and The Flash, and these are not superhero movies that I feel could work. So
I'll go second just because I think I'm going to be the middleist person in this debate, where Anton's very against. I'm going to be in the middle, and then John's going to be not necessarily pro superhero movies, but at least pro more of the movies since he's more of a superhero fan. But I will agree.
I would say that's a fair guess.
I only watched the first Captain America movie, and I did not enjoy myself. I was even sick of the Avengers movie. It was a good movie, but I was just like, why are you guys making this? Other than the obvious, so we can all agree the reason they're making all these movies is because more likely they're going to make a buttload of cash. The same reason they made 35 Fast and the Furious movies is because they cost a lot, but they make a crap ton of money, even though they're just schlock. Yeah, I enjoyed the new Batmans. I didn't watch any of the new Spider-Mans because I don't care. I didn't enjoy the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans either. Actually, I think the only superhero movies I enjoyed were the Tim Burton Batmans, the new Batmans, and that's really all I can think about. I remember the Flash TV show, if either of you guys remember that.
Nope.
But yeah, so I mean they're doing it to cash in, and it's really funny because they keep just remaking them, right? They made crappy Spider-Man movies, and they're just like, well, we'll just remake them. And you would think people would be like, no, the last one sucked. I don't want to watch another Spider-Man movie, but that's not the case. And Patton Oswalt was talking on a podcast or a show or an article or something, and he has his finger very close to the pulse of comic book geeks out there and everything, and he said that comic book geeks or comic book fans, I don't want to call them geeks just because I'm enough of a comic book geek where I'm one, but that they are fine however many times they have to redo these films to get them right. They'll back them and go and watch them, so they can make 50 different Spider-Mans by different directors and a different vision, and they'll get money, tons of money. So I'm against. I don't know of all the movies coming out, but I can guarantee I'm against making 90% of it. John, take the baton. Bring us home to the other side.
Thank you. I'd like the feather. Well, no, while I am probably one of the foremost defenders of everything comic book in the world, neither of you are wrong. Like, nothing that you just shared was just total up in the night, ridiculous, unfounded bullshit, right? Like, I get it. I do.
Yeah,
I really do.
This is all opinion. Like, no one is, like, technically wrong on anything we talk about.
Well, I mean, you're both technically wrong. and I'll tell you why. No, I'm just kidding. Like, the thing about comic book movies and what Patton Oswalt said, like, I don't know, stuff like that, I'm just like, well, yeah, no shit. Anytime a comic book gets a new writer, it's a new take. It's basically a remake. It's like, this is a different imagination of what the character is and what they does. While it stays true to, like, the overarching story, Tim Burton's vision of Batman was way different than Joel Schumacher's, which was different than Christopher Nolan's, which was way different from, I don't remember the name of the director of the Adam West TV series. It's just like, none of them are the same, even though they're all based around the same character, just because comic books are wildly different. And that's like, while the immediate joke is Aquaman, right? Like, yeah, who the fuck would want to watch a movie about Aquaman? This most recent run of Aquaman comics has completely changed the character to where he's awesome. Like, he's so cool, his personality's awesome, and if that's the Aquaman they go with, like, there's a good chance it could be a good movie. This is my biggest issue. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think that's a good point, because, I actually didn't think about that until you just said that even the comic books themselves, they go through generations and they get different writers. And I know that, like I don't want to get this wrong, the Dark Knight series of the Batman comics, I know was like done by one author or several different authors, but it was completely basically unrelated almost to like some of the earlier running Batman comics. And so I know that, I guess if you're doing new movies based on the different visions that, have been generated by the comics, that's one thing, I guess. But
yeah, and that is one thing. But that being said, you can't defend every comic book movie with that, because some of them are just totally made up schlock, terrible, have nothing to do. And that's what I was going to say. That's my biggest problem with comic book movies, actually, is that most production studios, way more before now, like they're kind of starting to lean this way, but before now, they were so resistant to be too nerdy. Like, they didn't want to go with what the comic books were doing because they thought it wouldn't reach audiences, because nobody reads comic books. Like, comic books are for 13-year-old boys. Like, they're not whatever.
They're still kind of not
like,
cool.
Production studios started... What?
They're still kind of not cool. Like, like how we've discussed, like, nerd culture now is, like, 100% cool. I feel like comic books are still, like, not. Like, most people, like, don't want their friends to know they, like, go to, like, comic book stores on the weekend. Like, they're still kind of...
True.
Right. I don't want to say they're underground, but they're not, like, socially accepted to, like, cool nerd culture.
Like, honestly, nowadays I can spout off some of the, like, Star Wars knowledge that I've amassed throughout the years, which is plentiful. Like, I know a ton of random... just bullshit about Star Wars, and people will be like, oh my god, like, that's so cool that you know that stuff, like, holy cow. But then I start talking about comic books, and they just, like, glaze over, and it's just like, it's, to them, it's still something for kids. And it's like, okay, that's fine if that's your opinion, like, whatever. Yeah. But, like, then there's stuff like Ant-Man, which is, the longer Ant-Man's been around, the less hype I am for it. Because when it was originally announced, it was supposed to be Edgar Wright that was going to be directing it. And
I would probably
like, that would be so cool. I want to see him do a superhero movie. Like, I would even go see an Edgar Wright Batman movie, just because it's going to be so different than any Batman that's ever been out there, you know what I mean? That being said, I also don't remember how many movies, like the number of movies that Marvel has announced, but I think it's through the year 2028.
Yeah, it's
they
like
literally have that long of a plan.
Years, yeah. Right.
And I think that mentality is dangerous. Because both studios are now in kind of this magic world where they believe they can do no wrong, where they can just make whatever they want and people will see it. And I don't think that they understand that they can really, really offend comic book viewers to the point that people won't go see new movies. Like, I know a bunch of people who, like, think about the feeling that people have about Batman and Robin today. Like, people talk about how it's like the worst fucking movie of all time. Like, it is terrible. George Clooney has publicly apologized, everything like that. So, I mean, like, the path through comic book land is not paved with gold. Like, they have to actually make good shit. And it's like, it's still not perfect. It's definitely a long way from that. but it's way better than the shit we had 10 years ago. I remember going to the movie theater and seeing the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and I was so excited. I was like, this is so good. Like, finally we have a Spider-Man movie, and it's, like, actually good, and I really enjoy it. And now when I watch it, it's terrible. Like, it's awful. It's not the character. It's not at all what I imagined.
It does have a little bit of Bruce Campbell, though.
Right, and you can't be mad about that.
A little bit of sprinkling on the piece of poo that is that movie.
All three of them. Oh, and it's like, I went and saw the new ones. I saw both of them in theaters. And the very first Amazing Spider-Man, again, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's so awesome because they went back, like, he's actually a high school kid, which is what he should be. He's a nerd who loves science, which is what he should be. And there were all these things. And then I saw the second one, and I walked out, and I'm like, wow, it only took this director 2 movies to become super bloated and retarded and add way too many elements that just ruined it. Like, it just wasn't enjoyable. And they had people like, I never thought that I would see a movie with Paul Giamatti and be like, wow, Paul Giamatti, like, you're a piece of shit. That was terrible. I can't believe you did that. You know what I mean? And that sucks. I didn't want that, but it's the, rules of nature.
Yeah, I think that a big problem with this is that because comic book movies have become such a cash cow for Hollywood, they're taking themselves way too seriously. There's even like Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people liked, and I think a lot of people liked that movie because it didn't take itself seriously. It was a very tongue-in-cheek sort of like, we know these are terrible superheroes from a obscure comic book, and fuck it, we can do no wrong. So we're going to make a high-budget movie with some big-name actors, and we're going to just make it really funny and not take itself seriously. And it did really well, and people really liked that.
Yeah.
But you see, and that's what's cool is even in the actual comic books, that's what Guardians of the Galaxy is like. Like, it is ridiculous. It's just so silly. And I mean, one of your main characters is a freaking anthropomorphic raccoon. Like, they just have fun with it. Like, and that's why I would be really excited to see like an actual respectful Deadpool movie. Because they won't care. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. It's like, this is what the comic book character is, and we're just gonna go, dress to the nines. Like, we're just gonna do everything. And that would be awesome. My theory about the last 2 years of comic book movies, because if we actually go individually through, we're not going to, don't worry, Ryan, don't have a heart attack. But if we were to go through and talk about each of them, my reviews of most of those movies is going to be unfavorable. And I have a theory as to why, and it's completely unrelated to comic books in and of themselves. For some reason, in the last 2 years, every movie that has come out has had this desire to be dark and depressing and heavy. And I remember sitting in the movie Man of Steel, right? And like, if you go see a Superman movie that is true to the character Superman, which lots of people who love comic books don't love Superman because he's hard to get right. Like, how do you empathize with a dude who's invincible and untouchable? And like, it's hard. It's hard, But if you walk out of a good Superman movie, like even the old Christopher Reeves movies, as ridiculous and campy as they were, you want to be a better person. Like, you want to help other people, and like, you want to be a little bit more like Superman, like the whole Boy Scouty truth, justice, and the American way, right? I walked out of that movie being like, I want to kill myself. Like, Superman doesn't care. Metropolis is destroyed. Like, this is not Superman. Superman doesn't just like say, okay, whatever, fuck it, let's fight, and just destroy half a city. Like, that's so contrary to the idea. And like with Christopher Nolan's last Batman movie that retroactively ruined all of them for me, it was like he tried to make this intense, dark, international spy thriller instead of just making another Batman movie. You know what I mean? And it was like, you guys quit being heavy. Like, deep drama does not equal good. It doesn't. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy proved that formula wrong. It was fun. It had deep moments where like you were supposed to feel emotion, but on the whole, it was just a good, lighthearted, awesome romp. And that's why I still say to this day, no sarcasm aside, best movie of 2013, Pacific Rim.
Dude,
because it didn't give a shit. It had fun. It was giant robots fighting giant monsters, and that's all it was. And I loved every second of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is Pacific Rim was dark. I mean, it was a
almost apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, it was an apocalyptic movie. The world was ending. There was like serious shit happening. Most of the movie was filmed in, there was very little light. I mean, it was literally dark, and there was some heavy shit, but it was still a lighthearted movie, which is what made it so good.
Right.
And
you can tell when the people involved in a movie are having fun making the movie.
Yeah, like you can tell that they want to be there, you know?
Right.
And I'm really happy that you brought up Deadpool, because that is the one superhero movie that I'm looking forward to. Because the only comics I've ever read are the Deadpool comics. Like, I went and I cherry-picked them all out, and I read them, and they are fantastic. I love that he breaks the fourth wall. I love that he doesn't give a shit. I love that he is super aware of the fact that he's a comic book character. It's amazing.
Right. And he's constantly making fun of the conventions of comic books. Like, he's always just mocking comic book writers, comic book readers, like every trope that is there in comic books. He just rips it apart, and it's hilarious because they're all true.
And if anyone here has not played the Deadpool game, it's absolutely worth every dollar. It's not a good game. I'm going to throw that out there and tell you it's not a good game mechanically. The story isn't great, but the characters drive it. I mean, it's literally Deadpool. It starts off with him on a couch, and he's like, you know what? I should make a video game. So he like calls up the producer, and he's like, hey, give me some money. I'm going to make a fucking video game. And then he just does, because he's Deadpool. But yeah, that is going to be really good. And that's what I want, is I want superhero movies that don't take themselves so seriously. And I would really love to see some directors that you wouldn't normally see doing a movie like that, doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to see Wes Anderson's Spider-Man. You know, like, I want to see, you know, like things like that, you know, like, and you can say what you want about Burton's Batman, but he had a vision for it, and he went in a direction that was very his style, and good or bad, it was still interesting to watch, and I'll still watch those movies to this day because, you know, I like him as a director, and I like his movies, and I like to see his interpretation of it.
As long as Johnny Depp's not in it, I can get behind it.
Fuck it, throw Johnny Depp. Oh, shit.
Like,
you know I will. Yeah.
One of the best things that you can go online and read is right before Christopher Nolan got the bid for Batman, Darren Aronofsky actually pitched a different Batman.
Is this
where,
the
like, Batman
Alfred?
was homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jive-talking gangster Alfred, and, like, even though as a diehard comic book fan, a part of me would have died inside because I'm like, this is just not at all Batman. There's a thing in comic books called Elseworld Tales where it's like, what if? One of my favorite Superman stories is, what if instead of landing in the heartland of Kansas, he landed in the middle of Moscow, Russia? And how would that have changed the world, you know? And it's super good. I feel like we can get off this topic, but before we do, I would like to make a John Wesley Worf prediction. And this is, I'm being very real right now.
So real. The realist.
So the person who wanted to make a Wonder Woman movie more than anyone else on this planet was Joss Whedon. He has wanted to do a Wonder Woman movie for years. She is one of his favorites, if not his favorite, and he was always talking about, I know that he has written some comic books. I don't remember if he ever wrote Wonder Woman. He definitely did write some X-Men. Anyways, my prediction is that the best DC movie that will come out will be Wonder Woman. Well, despite all of my beliefs, despite what people want, Wonder Woman is going to be the best film.
Well, DC doesn't have a ton of good superheroes, and they're really
low. You take that back.
They're really low in their pool to choose from. And if Joss Whedon writes anyone, especially a female character, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Right. So well, unfortunately now he can't. Right, like he's totally barred because he is saddled to the Marvel train until the end of time. Yeah. So there's no way he's going to get away to write a Wonder Woman movie.
Is he doing Avengers 2? Because I thought I had heard some. Oh, okay. I thought I heard somewhere that he wasn't.
Well, here's the thing. Like, now that they have him as like the main story, whatever, like supervisor, I don't know if he's going to write and direct it. He'll definitely he'll definitely help write it for sure, but I don't know if he'll direct it.
I honestly don't care if he directs it. I just want his dialogue to be in it.
Yeah.
Right. True. Honestly, there are a few directors where like they don't make the greatest movies, but their dialogue is awesome. Like obviously Joss Whedon also makes really good movies, but his dialogue's awesome. But then like Kevin Smith movies are not the greatest. Dude knows how to write dialogue. Yep. Like for sure. Yeah, it's always entertaining and fun to listen to.
Oh my God. Could
Wes
you
Anderson.
Imagine Kevin Smith's Batman or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
With the giant mechanical spider.
Yeah. He's just fucking standing around in the Batcave for half an hour bitching about shit.
Yeah, so
that would be awesome. I would watch
Clerk style.
Well, so speaking of those two directors and dialogue, so I've always thought like the three directors that are best at sort of like making it seem like realistic / like it's ad-libbed are Tarantino, Smith, and Whedon. And I've always ranked them from being like the most realistic to least. I would probably say that it goes, I would maybe go Whedon, Tarantino, Smith. Because it seems
least?
like from most realistic to least. Because
right.
Whedon is kind of like writes as if like all your friends talked pretty normal, but everyone was like super, super witty. And like Smith is like pretty normal, but like everyone is just like a little bit like too smart and like goes on like super, super, super long, like rants.
Soliloquies.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Tarantino, his would be like friends who are smart, but have like read the dictionary like forwards and backwards. And just use like the weirdest
and
words.
And who also went to prison for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I think Tarantino has probably the best dialogue, but it's always delivered from characters that I don't believe are real. You know, he has really, really like caricatured characters, so to say. Like he takes a character that's very specific in a way that's not realistic, and then adds very real, very heavy dialogue on top. So that's what takes me out of it a little bit. But I still
think the best Tarantino dialogue is just the diner scene from Reservoir Dogs. Like that's how people talk. That's how a group of dudes just talk. You know what I mean? And it's like that's not my favorite Tarantino movie, but if we're talking just like what I believe is accurate to life dialogue, that diner scene, like it's perfect. You know what I mean? It's just that's how dudes talk to each other.
And Kill Bill is definitely the least realistic. The stuff they say in that movie are, and I mean, not that it was like supposed to be realistic, but it's very like sort of 70s, like going for one-liners all the time style.
Yeah.
You know, dialogue.
Yeah. Agreed. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. I'll take the bullet for the team, for the BitLag team. I will see every comic book movie, and I'll tell you which ones you need to see and which ones you can skip.
Oh, man.
All right,
every movie.
I will say that I will go to the theater and I will pay money to see a standalone Ben Affleck Batman movie, just because I feel like for some reason it would be just fantastic. You know, I don't know why, but I want to see Batflick. Like,
here's the thing. Bad. There might have only been 10 of us in the whole, like, United States. I do not think they could have picked a better actor. And I am not being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like, I am super excited to see Ben Affleck as Batman.
Like now,
really excited.
I really want them to get Matt Damon to do Aquaman and get those two and get Kevin Smith to do a Batman, Aquaman, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon crossover movie. And it would just be, I would see it 100 times.
Just hanging out in Atlantis bullshitting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Just bitching about Superman. Look at this asshole.
Right, because let's be honest, Superman is an asshole. Like, that's his character.
Look at this fucking invincible dick. Look at him. Oh, yeah, use your laser vision. Good job, asshole.
Oh, why don't you just fly around the world backwards and reset time? Get cock munch.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wait, there is one more thing I want to say. This was awesome. So recently, a long-standing competition in superhero land was laid to rest. Finally, like, cop and nails done, right? Superman and the Flash have raced many times. And they always do some ridiculous thing where they're like 20 laps around the equator, right? Because they're freaking superhumans. They run really fast, right? So all of the other runs before have been for charity, where they're running and raising money for, you know, sick kids in Africa or something. So recently, they just straight up were like, okay, no detours to save people, no charity, like whatever, 10 laps around the equator, fastest man wins, right? There was one of the best moments in comic book history where they're on the last lap and they're just neck and neck, right? And the Flash looks over to Superman and is like, all right, Clark, I'm sorry, but I'm going to start running now. And Superman is like, what are you talking about? Like, we've already done this race and we've tied every time. And he goes, yeah, but Clark, those were for charity. And he's gone. Like, Superman can't even see him anymore. Like, he's just gone. And I was like, thank you. Because if Superman is as quick as the superhero known for quickness, there's no point. Yeah. There's no point. Like, so it was just awesome. And just the grin, because the Flash, like his character, he's kind of a smartass, sarcastic-y, like, cocky, whatever. So just to see him be like, hey, those were for charity, and then he's not even in the panel anymore. Like, he's just gone. I was like, thank you. Thank you for laying it to rest.
Cool. Okay, so John, you live in Utah.
I do.
Give me the rundown on this Anita Sarkeesian shit that just happened.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there is a college. Ryan, quit your smirking. So there's this college.
I'm not smirking about the story because that would be fucked up. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. So college up in northern Utah, up near a city named Logan. Utah State University. She was going to come and deliver a keynote speech about feminism, obviously. And, there was a death threat released that said, if you go online and read the actual death threat, it's actually really messed up. Like, I haven't really read death threats before just because that's like a realm of humanity that I just, like, I don't get into. Like, I don't go to rotten.com. I don't watch crazy shit on VineLink. No, what's it called? LiveLeak.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not into it, right? But reading this thing, like, it's really graphic about, like, how it's gonna murder people and, like, it's bad. Like, I don't like it at all, right? I'm sure we'll come back to that. But anyway, there was a threat made that there was going to be a shooting on campus if she showed up. If she didn't cancel her speech, that there was going to be basically a mass shooting that would make all other mass shootings look like child's play, right?
Jeez.
Damn.
So, yeah, just rough, right? So she contacts the college and is like, hey, what kind of, like, how can we up security? Because I don't know if you guys knew this, but there was actually, I want to say USC, but it might have been UCLA. She went there to deliver a speech, and there was a bomb threat. They said that they were going to blow up the school if she came and delivered the speech, but whichever college, I think it was USC, basically upped security, so she still came and delivered her keynote speech. Like, they determined it was safe. Okay. But here in Utah, up at USU, they have a very liberal carry policy for people who have conceal and carry permits. Mm-hmm. And Utah is one of the states that is pretty liberal with who it gives conceal and carry permits anyway. Well, she contacted the college and she's like, can we up security? Like, is there any way that we can make things more safe? And basically the college said no. Like, we're not going to do pat downs. We're not going to buy metal detectors. Like, it's just not financially viable. So she canceled. Mm-hmm. She decided to cancel. And, I mean, for better or worse, she's not coming to Utah anymore. Well, at least to USU, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened today. Like, I heard about the story last night about the whole death threat, and then I didn't hear that she had officially canceled until this morning when I got into work and checked my news sources, Reddit.
Yep. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
Right.
We're all with you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, super messed up. Like, I don't know, this whole situation, I feel like what I have told people, because everyone who I work with knows that I'm a gamer, that I like video games, I'm very ingrained in video game culture, like, whatever. So of course, everyone has to ask me, like, what do you think about this girl? Like, what do you think about what she has to say? And honestly, like, my new canned response is, she has points. She has good, defensible points, but she uses extremism to defend the points, which kind of destroys her credibility in my eyes. It's like people who are like, I have a tiny problem with this, so let's kill everyone. It's like, no, like when she started, I know that one of the very first people that she, not attacked, I don't want to say attacked, but accused was Shigeru Miyamoto. Because she said, how come in all of your video games it's always the boy saving the girl? Mm-hmm. And Shigeru Miyamoto, like, his response was, well, I guess I've never really thought about it, which I feel like was a bad response, especially because there are 2 Princess Peach games where you are Princess Peach rescuing Mario. There have been multiple instances in the Legend of Zelda universe where Zelda does just as much work as Link does. Like, the games aren't called The Legend of Link, you know what I mean? So it's just like, she needs to do a little bit more research before she makes accusations, because I feel like Shigeru Miyamoto is pretty defensible. Like, whatever. He's a cool guy.
Tag me in here, John, real quick.
Hey, you're in, Ryan.
Right, also, your video.
You have the baton. Yeah, you look great. You sound great. I don't know what you just did.
Oh, I just had to get up and walk out real quick and come back in. So yeah, I'm pretty much like on the, like, look at it pretty much the same way John does. She does make some good points, but and I know, like, this kind of gets attacked on, like, a lot of threads and stuff, but she does cherry pick her videos about what to complain about. She doesn't give the full story, which is, like, horrible like journalism 101. And yeah, she goes after things like the Mario things, but doesn't look at the other things like Chrono Trigger, all the like extremely strong female characters in that game.
Yeah. Which, by the way, aside, that is my favorite role-playing game of all time.
Yes.
Unrelated.
So yeah, she could do a much better job at, getting her point across. But regardless what she said, even if she, said horrible things, no one deserves, like a death threat. And all the threats, like the crazy death threats that she and like other people, who are, like very pro-feminism and the like gaming world and all that, are getting is just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand the people who are like attacking them like that. If you want to attack them, you should be attacking them with like facts and just other ways.
So it's just sad because those type of people are just reinforcing her point, right? Like, that's what sucks is it's like, if she is being ridiculous, if she is cherry picking stories, if she is resorting to like sensational journalism, don't feed into it. Like, you are just helping her to continue that pattern of behavior by doing not the opposite, but like the opposite side of the coin where it's like, oh, okay, you think that? Well, then I'm going to fucking kill you. It's like, whoa, like,
yeah.
That's the problem is that, before I say this, I want to clarify that I'm not condoning any sort of violence or threats of violence against anyone, especially related to this Gamergate bullshit. But, the extremism creates more extremism. When you decide that you have a problem with an issue in society and you take an extremist approach to it, like she has, and no matter how you slice it, all of her videos are very, very specific and very, very, cherry-picked, very... she goes out of her way to make it seem like this is a much bigger problem than it is.
Right, inflammatory. They're very inflammatory.
Exactly, they're very inflammatory. She's taking an issue that exists and she's blowing it up into this gigantic, extreme issue that she's trying to spearhead with this campaign of hers. And when you take such an extremist approach, you're going to get people who are going to give you equally strong backlash. And all this is really doing is it's preventing people who are really fighting the actual feminist movement and are actually trying to get these issues taken care of in a productive way. She's doing a disservice to them. There are a ton of women in the video game industry now, and there's more and more every year that are entering the video game industry, and it's becoming more socially acceptable for women to work in the video game industry. And because of that, we're seeing a lot, even more so than in the past, we're seeing more and more and more female leads. We're seeing more strong female characters that are fleshed out into real people with, real dreams and real motives. Right. But, taking a stance right now in 2014 and saying that there's absolutely no, lead female characters, this is the kind of backlash you're going to get. And I don't want to say that she brought it upon herself, but she needs to change her approach if she wants to make a positive movement,
Well, it's like, I have found that while talking about this, a lot of the conversation that's happening is actually really similar to a lot of the conversations that I've heard and that we've even had here on the podcast about the celebrity nude leaks, where it's like, I'm not defending the people that did it. I am not saying that it was a correct action, but I am saying that we live in an era where, like, the gaming industry and the internet community are very closely related, very tight-knit. And if you have learned anything from spending a lot of time on the internet, which I feel comfortable saying all three of us have, is that anonymity through the internet makes people say crazy shit. Like, people will tell you they're going to murder you and like slaughter your family and like all sorts of things because you don't know who they are. Like, what are you going to do about it? And it has created this false ideal of like, well, I can say whatever the hell I want on the internet because who's going to stop me? You know what I mean? And it's like, once again, just like you said, Anton, not defending the people who make death threats. You should never ever threaten someone's life. And if you really feel like you need to kill someone because of their views, you should probably get help, like real professional, go see a psychiatrist, get on medication, because that's not normal. That being said, saying inflammatory things on the internet and then being outraged when you get the same back is ridiculous in this day and age. Like, if I go on Reddit right now and I just make a post where I'm just like, hey, everyone who browses our new, like, you're all fags, chances are I'm going to get a little negativity back. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way the internet goes. So, I mean, once again, I can't defend any of the people who are making death threats who are anything like that. that being said, she needs to change her tactics. She needs to actually take a look at the gaming industry, because while I believe we still have a long way to go, well, fuck, yeah, we have a long way to go in society for feminism and for healthy relationships between men and women and for equality. Yeah, that's a thing. It's not a video game problem. It's a people problem. Like, we're all that way. And video games have come a long way since I was a kid. Like, the most recent big video game release, Alien Isolation, the survival horror game, main protagonist, female. Like, based on a movie with a really strong female as well. And it's just, it's awesome. Like, I love crap like that.
Yeah, I think, feminism and, getting everything, like, equal in the gaming world, is slowly making progress, and it's gonna get a lot better. But I think people like her, and especially people like all the, people making death threats, are just bringing progress back a step every time they do it. I mean, I blame, death threats obviously way more than, like, she should be able to be as biased or not biased as she wants and say whatever she says and not get death threats.
Right.
But I don't know.
It just makes it harder to talk about the issue. Like, even here on this podcast, all three of us are obviously very open-minded, very supportive of everyone's ideals and ability to go out and speak what they want to speak about. And, we're the kind of people that need to be talking about this issue, yet still we're lacing this entire conversation with, disclaimers. We're not saying, we're not doing, everyone chill out, because that's the kind of repercussions that are now happening because of all of these different extremist movements. And it sucks, because we should be able to sit here comfortably and talk about this issue and share our opinions.
Fear of backlash.
Without fear of backlash, I mean, are we going to get death threats now because we said that blah, 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 who knows? And it is crazy, but that's the internet. That's the way
I've never got an actual, like, fearful online death threat. I'm kind of looking forward to my first one.
I do know like 10,000 people have had sex with my mom. But I mean, beyond that, I mean, that's the worst.
That's normal, right? That's normal.
Apparently, I'm really gay. I mean, if the internet knows anything, I'm just man. I am.
No, and like honestly, I have this issue aside. I have an overarching theory about life in general, and I'm about to share it all. You all will benefit from my wisdom, and that is, fanatics ruin everything. Yep. It does not matter what facet of life it is. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. The people who become zealots, who become so obsessed with an idea or a virtue or anything, they ruin everything for everyone else. Like, we all three here, we enjoy Major League Soccer. I really enjoy going to games. The people who are fanatical about it ruin it for everyone else, because then people meet you and they're like, oh, you're one of those guys. And you're like, no, I'm not one of those guys. I just enjoy soccer. Like, it's fun. You know what I mean?
So it's just football. Assholes call it soccer.
It's football.
Well, I guess I'm an asshole.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no. Yeah. But that's, at the end of the day, that's it. I agree. Anita Sarkeesian should be able to say whatever she wants. That's what the world of journalism is. If you want to make up just blatant lies and bullshit, you'll get fired. That's fine. I don't care. Like, that's the way the journalism world works.
Well,
if you sell copy, and you'll keep your job. Like, it doesn't matter. So it's like, whatever. It's going to keep happening. I think that people like us, who all three of us, we are in the gaming community, we enjoy video gaming, but we're also not misogynistic assholes. We don't care. I do not choose which video games I will and won't play based on whether or not the main character is a male or a female. I don't care if romance is part of the plot. I don't care if it deals with heavy issues like depression and anxiety. Like, it doesn't matter. If it's a good game, I will play it. If it's a shit game, I won't.
Yep. We do live in this, like, sensationalized media atmosphere where every movie is about, like, this huge evil villain or this crazy murderous maniac or things like that. And when you see that shit in real life, it kind of levels you and makes you think about, like, this shit really does happen sometimes. And it's interesting to think about, like, how complex the mind is and how it can break down far enough that those lines become blurred between what's okay and what's not okay and what you see in movies and what you don't see in movies.
That reminds me of that. You're totally reminding me of, what was it called? The Philip experiment, whatever.
Philadelphia?
It was like a real, say that again?
Philadelphia?
Oh, no. That's the one in the ship, right? Where they were trying to do teleportation and, like, supposedly people are fused to bulkheads. No, I'm talking about the one where they tried to prove that hauntings are in people's brains, so they tried to create a ghost. And, like, the entire theory is that, like, if you, with adrenaline running through your brain, are like convinced that there is a lady under your bed that's going to grab your ankles when you step down on the floor, if you believe it enough, and if like you convince your mind that it's true, it is true, and like something really will grab your ankles, and like whatever, and that's why like they explain away like people who like feel like they get grabbed and then they have a handprint, like a bruised handprint on their arm. It's like, yeah, it's all psychological. Like you can create ghosts with your brain, basically. And I forget what it was called, but it was a real experiment. I want to say it happened in England and the UK in like the 70s, but pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I know they did some experiments where like they had this like super old theater, and they would get like all these test groups, and they would tell like one couple or like one group, be like, oh, this place is like totally normal, go take a tour, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that place was like historical, that was fun or whatever. Then they'd grab like the next group and be like, this place is haunted, and like had this like backstory that never happened, and they'd go through and they'd be like, oh yeah, I felt like a cold chill on my back, or I saw this, or blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean it's totally true, because like after like I watched like a really like freaky movie, you know, like, everyone has, like, those times in their lives where they'll, like, get freaked out and, like, they could have sworn they saw something or heard something or whatever. Like, your mind just, it plays tricks on you.
Right, absolutely. And that reminds me of, like, there are all these experiments that people have done that just creep me out, and once again, like, names are just failing me right now. I don't know why my brain isn't working, but there's one that's all about isolation. And, like, the whole point is to induce, like, a special transitive state in your brain. And what you do is you sit in red light and listen to white noise and, like, basically whatever. And people have had some freaky-ass experiences where, like, they just all of a sudden start experiencing all this stuff that they can't explain. And it reminds me of not a great movie, but the other day my girlfriend and I watched a movie that was on Netflix. And, it like, that was the whole point of it, was that, like, when it was talking about, like, it tied it into Project MKUltra, like when the government was giving all the people
LSD.
acid, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it was talking about how, like, the people that they were giving this experimental drug to all of a sudden started seeing things that weren't there, that wanted to wear them. And, like, the movie was actually, like, that's
really creepy.
of it was, like, freaky. Like, the whole idea of, like, this experimental drug, like, opened this new world where they could see things that normal people can't see, and, like, hear things that normal people, and, like, that was creepy as fuck. Like, it really, the movie itself isn't that great, but, like, that idea was like, yeah, that's creepy as hell. Like, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, our brains are, like, subconsciously, like, able to deal out some really disturbing crap. Like, no matter who you are. And that's just, like, a good example of it.
Well, and the example I always go to is the fact that, you know, we see the world upside down, but our brain corrects it. You know, we've just evolutionarily and psychologically have figured out, it happens. You know, our brain determines what should be right, and it makes the correction, and then our perception is on a level higher than that. You know, if we're looking at, like, you know, levels of perception, we can't go low enough to really see what we really see. So it totally makes sense that you could alter your perception in such a way that you freak the fuck out of yourself.
Yeah. Dude, I know, like, this is getting way too deep, and we don't need to get into it.
Go deeper.
But, like, go deeper. But what blows my mind is just the idea of perception. And, like, if you can get enough people to believe something, it becomes reality. You know what I mean? Which just, like, blows my mind. Like, that whole idea of, like, I don't know, like, we talk about this at work all the time, because we, for whatever reason, talk about, like, the deep mysteries of the universe during lunchtime. But it's just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like our generation, more than any other generation, because of, like, the entertainment that we grew up with, like The Matrix, like, we're constantly thinking about, like, but what if this is all a dream? And, like, what if, like, can you tell the difference? Like, basically, reality is just impulses in your brain. So what if someone's screwing with my brain and, like, telling me what to see? And I don't know. It's fascinating. I wanted to, so I don't know if you guys know this, and definitely I haven't mentioned it on the podcast before, but I really enjoy writing, and I like writing short stories and everything like that. But I had an idea. I wanted to make a horror movie, and the entire point of the horror movie was going to be that there were, like, these, whatever you, like, I don't know. I hadn't decided yet. It was probably going to be ghosts, but whatever. And you can never see them when you look directly at them. You can only see them out of your peripheral vision. Because of the way your eyes work. So that's why you always think you see something moving, and then when you look, it's gone. Because
that.
if you're looking
That's
directly at
terrifying.
it, it's like Predator camo, right?
That's-
And I wanted to write a whole thing about like you have like
That's
I
good,
wanted the
man.
main scene to be like a dude walking around like not looking at the camera to like try to see where like this thing was.
That'd
And it
be
was-
good, man. That's a good idea.
That
it was
that reminds me.
copyright. Copyright John Wharf 2014.
It's gone, dude. It's already stolen. It's
I know.
literally already in production somewhere now.
Right.
So I won't say when I did this, but I very recently did kind of like a marathon of Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes.
Yes.
And there's that episode about the X-ray glasses where the girl, her boyfriend puts them on. They're just like kind of kooky from Mr. Sardo accent on the dough. Sells them. He doesn't like see anything. She puts them on. And she keeps like seeing people in like dark cloaks. And it sounds a little bit like the same thing. Obviously, yours is way creepier and better. But yeah, where like she puts them on and they eventually like see her and get closer and closer. But when she takes them off, there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. It's creepy, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like I don't know if you played. Now I can't remember the name of it. Now I'm gonna sound stupid. Is
it the one with the camera?
No, it's the game that came out not too long ago.
Oh, Fatal Frame?
No. Oh, that's a good game, but not the one I'm talking about. It came out. I'm gonna before I make this point, I'm gonna look it up. So
okay, I was actually talking Ryan about there is a new one, and I can't remember what it's called. It was an Indonesian independent horror game, and it's literally a ripoff of Fatal Frame, but instead it's your cell phone. Like it's a girl walking through a school, and she has a cell phone.
Yeah,
and she can only
watched
see the
videos of
ghost
that.
through the cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I forget
that.
the name of it, but I've watched a lot of videos of people playing that. It's pretty creepy.
Right. It has a really generic name. I can't remember. It's something
Scare.
like right. Something
Horror.
like that. Last
Fright.
long.
Fright.
Right.
Game.
Fright game.
Fright Game 1.
My favorite thing
Fright
ever is
scariness.
there's a recurring joke. I always watch Two Best Friends Play on YouTube.
Oh,
they do
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
scary games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite thing ever is they always talk about starting a Kickstarter for a survival horror game called Shit's Locked, the game. Because like in every survival horror game, like you try to open a door and it's like, it's locked by a mysterious force because you can't model a whole world. And it's like, shit's locked the game.
That's awesome.
So Anton, you found it.
Beyond Two Souls. I don't know if you played that. It came out just a little while ago. But one of the main points of that game is that the main character has like this ghost friend, I guess. I don't want to spoil it because the game is basically all story. So, but basically she's got this ghost friend that she can see and no one else can see, and he can like help her navigate through the environment and solve puzzles and whatnot. But it's kind of that thing where it's like, if someone could see him, he would know because they would react, Right. And so it's like, as long as nobody's reacting, then he knows he's invisible. So like that's that kind of, anyways.
This shit has Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page in it?
Yeah. Dude,
That's crazy.
It's really
okay,
good.
but wait. Anton, have you played this game?
Yeah, I played it all the way through.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, dude, I hate him. I hate
Really?
David Cage. I hate him.
David Cage. David
I think
Cage
he's
is
the
the golden
big
god.
ever.
I love David Cage.
Can we spoil an older game? Because Beyond Two Souls is like really new. So can I spoil an older one?
As long as you say spoiler alerts first.
Well, we say spoilers, and also I think that after a year, all bets are off. So,
all right. So Heavy Rain. Can we talk about Heavy Rain for a second?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Worst fucking game ever made.
Really? You didn't like
Dude,
Heavy Rain?
This is why. The gameplay, inventive. The story was the dumbest shit. You play as the fucking serial killer, and he's like, I wonder what's going on. And it's like the most unreliable narrator ever. There's no point.
No. How many?
Yeah.
No, how many times did you play it? There's like 17 endings. And
But it doesn't matter.
Only in a couple of them is he the killer. There's other ones where he's not the killer.
Is it another main character that you play as?
Yes.
So it doesn't fucking matter. Like, if it's a character
right,
you play as, and the character you're playing as is like,
but
there's blood, let's investigate this. That's the dumbest shit ever.
True, but if you were that character, so if you were actually that person that you're playing as, and you were the serial killer, and you're locked up in your persona or in your cover story, you would play along. Like even if you're wrapped up in it and you're the one who's doing it, you're still going to play along.
But that goes to shit when you can hear the character's inner thoughts. that's when it goes to shit. And that entire game is built off this floating cloud of what thought am I going to think about next?
Yeah, but I mean, the point of the game is to fool you, obviously. I mean, it takes, okay, I'll give you this much. David Cage takes things a little bit too far. I mean, he
every time.
He has a goal. Like, he has certain goals that he wants to do. Like, Beyond Two Souls, he wanted to make an amazing cinematic game that would just blow your goddamn mind. And it did. I mean, it did a really good job about that. Was it fun? No, it wasn't. Did I enjoy it? Would I have rather it been a movie and just watched it?
Dude,
absolutely.
Anton, spoiler alert. When you're on that farm and the giant evil sky demon shows up, you didn't go to yourself like, okay, this game is kind of shit the bed.
No,
like,
but that's the point.
We have passed the point of no return.
But that's when the game
got like... jumped the shark.
That's the thing.
Right,
that's the thing about David Cage, though, is that every David Cage game starts the same way. It starts pretty normal. There's something a little weird going on. Like, it's kind of heavy. There's a big mystery. And then, like, 3 to 4 hours in, shit goes crazy. Like, he just, like, flips the crazy button, and, like, that's the point, like, in that desert scene where you're hanging out with
it's like season 2 of Twin Peaks, where you're like, I can't even watch this anymore because it's such bullshit.
I didn't think there was anything like this in the game, and all of a sudden it's like, sky demons! What the fuck is going on?
Dude, it was, that's when I was just like, this is such bullshit. Like, I can't do it.
You have to play David Cage games, like, understanding that it's going to be David Cage games. I mean, it's just like, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's like, I'm going to go do a Wes Anderson movie for the action. Like, no, you're not. That's a terrible idea.
I don't know. Did you see the newest, the Grand Budapest?
Yeah. No,
there was a lot of action in that movie.
Yeah. And there's a pretty cool shootout in Life Aquatic. But, I mean, beyond that, I mean, it's not what you go to his movies for.
Right. What's funny is I feel like, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I feel like Grand Budapest was Wes Anderson's answer to, like, all of the parody, like all the Wes Anderson parody. Yeah. And he, like, saw everyone, like, making fun of his movie style, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna write a murder mystery. Screw you guys. Yep. And he did, and it was awesome. So, Ryan, I guess now you can decide whether or not to play David Cage games. You have two people on either side.
I recommend
those games.
You should definitely watch a Let's Play of them, though. Like,
I'll do that.
I always recommend this guy, but Jesse Cox, he's my favorite YouTuber, and Jesse Cox, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you're my favorite. But
with all your YouTube money.
With all your fat YouTube money. Dude, he used to be a teacher. He was a teacher, and then he was like, I'm making all this fat YouTube cash. Fuck this. I'm going to do that instead. And now he has a way better life. But anyways, he does a playthrough of Beyond Two Souls, and it's great. His commentary is wonderful, and it's definitely a game you should watch. The gameplay elements are literally move and react to QuickTime events. So it's not fun to play, but it is great to watch.
Freaking QTEs, baby.
Dodger, if you would like to sponsor this podcast because you already sponsor my heart.
That's right. Oh. Dodger, if you don't want to sponsor the podcast, but just move to Portland and, I'll be creepy around you. That sounds great. Let's do that.
Did you guys watch that SNL skit about Wes Anderson, the midnight cautery of Sinister Intruders?
No.
So it's if Wes Anderson directed a horror film.
Nice.
Basically.
Awesome.
Did you ever see if Wes Anderson directed a porno?
Yes. Yeah,
dude, it's so funny. I was laughing my ass off. Like, it's so good. And
so I'm gonna take the spot.
Wait, what were we talking about before David Cage?
Murders, I think. I don't know.
Well, we went murders and then we went survival horror.
Oh, and then I brought up Beyond Two Souls because we were talking about ghosts.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. You know who was really interesting? I was rewatching Nacho Libre a couple of weeks ago because that is a fantastic movie. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this seems like I feel like Wes Anderson had to have had something to do with this. And I ended up finding out that I guess the guy who directed Nacho Libre and
Napoleon
Dynamite, I guess that he's worked with Wes Anderson quite a bit. So, I mean, it's like a direct influence. But they're filmed the same way.
Nacho Libre is the dumbest and possibly the most wonderful film ever made.
It is, dude. I can't tell. Like, I honestly, and it's by Nickelodeon. Like, it's a fucking Nickelodeon movie. And, like, that makes it, like, just that one fact makes it so that I can't determine whether or not it's a parody of itself. Like, it's a super meta, like, really, really complex parody of itself, or if it's really just, like, this, like, ho-hum movie that just happens to be really funny. Like,
so I have to say, 28-year-old me never thought I would hear the word Nickelodeon prefaced with fucking.
By the way, like, you guys know that studio is like defunct, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a total like inner like 6-year-old Ryan killer, or like 10-year-old Ryan killer. Like, that's brutal, man. Kids played like that's like where GAC was made, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
No longer exists. It's toast.
Dude, it's because they were retarded and they stopped making shows like Double Dare or
Guts.
even freaking Guts.
I have been saying this for years. We need to replace the Olympics with global guts. Like, send real, like, legitimate athletes to do global guts against each other, climb that crag, man.
Aggro
and,
crag.
Dude, the aggro crag, the super aggro crag. Like, I would pay so much money to see, like, crazy, fit, awesome athletes just, like, powering up that motherfucker and just, like, going crazy.
Yeah,
while they're dropping the fake macrame boulders down on them.
Oh!
The styrofoam boulders that weigh, like, a quarter of a pound. So, yeah, like two of my, like, biggest dreams as a kid was to get on Double Dare Global Guts, or to get one of those, like, Toys R Us, like, sweep weeks, like, sort of, like, time attack, like, what were they called?
Like supermarket sweep at Toys R Us.
Get as much in the cart as you can.
Yeah, where you were like, you got 60 seconds with this cart to run through and grab as much crap as you can. Like, never happened.
Here's the thing. So there's one Nickelodeon show that I always talk about with my friends and no one else remembers. Do you remember the one where it was like an arcade one where they would play arcade games against each other, and then whoever wins at the end like walks through like a virtual reality game where they're the main character in the video game? What was that called?
I do not remember that.
It was awesome because they were playing like actual licensed video games against each other.
Well, Anton will probably have it here in a second.
Right.
Nick Arcade.
Well,
that was simple.
That was simple.
But yeah, dude, that was great. That still shows up. I don't know if you guys have heard of Nick Reboot or not, but NickReboot.com. It's this website that just streams 24/7 90s Nickelodeon. Like, it's just awesome. Like commercials and everything. It's like, it's got like straight up like Now 3 commercials, you know, like
nice.
Check it out, this brand new hit from the Backstreet Boys. It's like, it's super great. But it plays all those old, like, and it's mostly the weird competition shows. They had a ton of like really weird competition shows.
Dude, Legends of the Hidden Temple.
That
was
the Hidden Temple.
Shit. Like,
fucking,
that's so good.
What was it? Purple Monkeys? Was it Purple Monkeys? I don't know. There's a team I was rooting for.
That was a team.
I think it was the Red Monkeys, and it was the
Purple Parrots.
Let's see.
Because there's alliteration.
Blue Barracudas.
Blue Barracudas, yep.
Maybe it was Green Monkeys.
Oh, there's a silver. There's silver something too.
Yeah,
I remember.
Oh. And there was Olmec, the giant Olmec.
Yes.
Hello, challengers.
My life has just gotten better. Right now, Nick Reboot is playing As Told by a Ginger. Next is Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
awesome. Dude, you have to stay up and watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I will say though that like I'm a big enough 90s nerd where I've already watched all of Pete and Pete multiple times since I knew about this.
Yep.
I just hope it's not the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode about Zebo the clown, because that shit will haunt me till the end of my days.
Right, that one's creepy as hell.
Yeah. And there's one about a swimming pool in a school. I don't remember what it's called or anything, but I remember it scared the shit.
It was Zebo the clown, the swimming pool with that like red skeleton like that was like all messed up that comes out of it. It was the one where the comic book like Jester makes everyone laugh like green goo. And then there was like one where like a kid dies on like a small bridge about like a red bicycle. And other ones I don't remember.
Right. You just reminded me of something totally unrelated, but I'm doing it anyway. Anton, did you also have a Genesis growing up?
Absolutely.
Okay. The greatest video game ever made. Comics Zone. Did either of you ever play Comics Zone?
I rented it a couple times. I'd never owned a Zone.
Right. So you are a comic book artist, and the main villain of your comic book comes alive and puts you in the comic. So, like, every stage transition is you, like, grabbing the panel and swinging to the next one, or, like, dropping down another panel, and you're, like, fighting your comic. And, like, you're, like, it was so good.
That's
Comic
awesome.
Zone,
so fun.
Comic Zone, comics spelled with an X. Because it's cool.
Comics
and the
Zone.
90s.
Yeah. Dude, Anton, if you can find a totally legal copy of it,
I will.
You should play.
Go on eBay, buy a Genesis and Comic Zone.
Yes, I will do that.
Wait, do you both not still have your Genesis? Because mine is currently hooked up.
No.
For sure.
When I moved out, I gave all my old systems to my brother. So he currently has my Genesis and my SNES and my Xbox original and my GameCube and et cetera, et cetera.
Dude, all those are currently hooked up. My Dreamcast, my
I have my 64
Xbox
still.
with all my emulators.
I have a Nintendo 64 right now, but it's not mine. It's someone that lived with me for a while and then left it because they were like, why would I want that? And I was like, because you're dumb, so I'll
You're
take
like, because Jet Force Gemini, you stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah. Dude, I sit around and play Perfect Dark all the time, still.
Dark.
Dude, that game is wonderful. It's bad,
Railgun is
great.
way too OP.
Yeah,
way
super OP.
Right. All right.